Michael Cohen's attorney, Lanny Davis, making his first appearance on Fox News Channel since he began representing the president's former lawyer. Lanny Davis, good morning to you.
But an old veteran of Fox News, so.
Yeah, good morning, Lanny. How are you?
I'm back.
Nice to see you this morning. So first off, I'll ask the question a lot of people are wondering at this moment, and that is, will your client cooperate with Robert Mueller?
Well, the answer is he will cooperate with everyone because he's committed to telling the truth. That's a general statement. I can't give you a specific answer regarding Mr. Mueller or anyone else, but I know that when he retained me, and as recently as yesterday, he's committed to telling the truth. And we've actually set up a website with the name Truth in it called michaelcohentruth.com, and he's looking for help from people who want to give donations to help him tell the truth.
When you say he wants to tell the truth, does your client know anything about alleged Russian collusion? Is your client willing to testify about anything that Donald Trump told him as a candidate about alleged Russian collusion? Will he testify about any actions that the president may or may not have taken concerning the Russians?
Well, I know you're doing your job, and you won't be surprised to know that I'm not going to answer a question until Mr. Mueller is finished with his investigation, and we'll leave it up to Mr. Mueller and other investigation bodies before we tell people ahead of time. But
does he have any of that type of information? He was very close to Donald Trump. I've been in the office in Trump Tower with both of them. The president would say he'd be squealing, and he has said he's made up stories. Did your client make up stories about the president?
I don't believe so, but this is the same president who called John Dean one of the iconic heroes from the Nixon-Watergate criminal conspiracy that caused Richard Nixon to resign. And John Dean was a convicted felon. And he called John Dean, in all caps, a rat. That's the nature of the man that is sitting in the White House. So I wouldn't take too seriously his reaction to Michael Cohen deciding to step up to the line and take responsibility and under oath describe that what he did at the direction and with the coordination of the president, meaning that his crime was the president's crime.
Mr. Davis, since the outcome yesterday, you have gone on other television networks and you've said and gone a bit beyond what you're telling us now, saying that Cohen's knowledge reached beyond the, quote, obvious possibility of a conspiracy to collude, and included information on whether Trump participated in a, quote, criminal conspiracy to hack into the emails of Democratic officials during the 2016 election.
Yes, I did say possibility, and possibility isn't a fact. It's my judgment and observation that there is that possibility, and he'll have to leave the specifics as to whether or not that possibility becomes stronger than possibility up to Mr. Mueller or whoever's questioning.
Mr. Davis, your client once said he would take a bullet for this president. What changed?
It's a great question, and it was one of my first questions when he called me, because I was not interested in representing him if he were defending Donald Trump, as he had previously done for so many years. We talked at length about what had changed his mind about Donald Trump to the point where he now was ready to say, I'm hitting the reset button and I'm now going to tell the truth about Donald Trump. And that was the beginning of my decision to represent him. I think you have seen in the first interview with George Stephanopoulos some very specific principles that he is on the opposite side of Donald Trump. He mentioned, for example, his respect for the FBI. He mentioned his respect for the intelligence community, unanimous judgment, including Donald Trump's own Director of National Intelligence, that the Russians interfered on Mr. Trump's behalf in what is the functional equivalent of corrupting our democracy. And only one person is left who denies his own intelligence community's unanimous judgment, who stood publicly at Helsinki, which was a major turning point for Michael Cohen, and sided with Vladimir Putin over his own intelligence community. So there have been a number of incidents that I believe have been influential on Mr. Cohen.
So you're saying that he changed his mind and his thinking on the president over an act of patriotism?
No question most Americans, according to the polls, were concerned.
But just talking
that
about
what
Michael Cohen
Mr.
here, and here's
well, you just said an act of patriotism, and yes, Michael Cohen was offended, as were most Americans, by Donald Trump standing up and aligning himself with Putin against his own intelligence community.
I want to make
That
sure
was
we
a
get in.
factor.
I want to make sure we get in the president's words this morning, because he just tweeted this, Mr. Davis. Michael Cohen pled guilty to 2 counts of campaign finance violations that are not a crime. President Obama had a big campaign finance violation, and it was easily settled. How do you respond to that?
So interesting when Donald Trump admits something by saying the opposite. So by saying it's not a crime, which the law says if you give money to influence an election beyond the campaign finance limits, that's a felony. And Michael Cohen, with the prosecutors, stood up under oath in federal court and admitted to that crime and said he did it at the direction and coordination with the prosecutor's language there that he agreed to. And Donald Trump is disagreeing with the prosecutors with Mr. Cohen's description of this as a crime, the same way he disagrees with the entire intelligence community. Not one dissenter in his own administration. So when Rudy Giuliani says truth isn't truth, you just heard Donald Trump reverse truth and make it into a falsehood. It's classic.
Well, in court yesterday, your client said that he was directed by candidate number 1, basically then candidate Trump, to make this illegal contribution. It is under Department of Justice guidelines, and Mr. Mueller has said that a sitting president cannot be indicted. Does Michael Cohen, and do you, believe that Donald Trump committed a federal crime? And if he were not the sitting president of the United States, that he would be indicted right now?
Well, there's no question that he's committed a federal crime, and whether he can be indicted has never been decided. I see no quotation from Mr. Mueller. I see attribution anonymously, but there were 2 opinions of the Office of Legal Counsel many years ago. The Supreme Court has never ruled. I think there is a traditional view that you don't indict sitting presidents, but that's an unsettled question.
Obviously, Mr. Davis, there is a question of whether or not he committed a federal crime. That does not exist today. I want to ask you, though.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there is no question.
You said that there's
what the
no
campaign,
question.
Right, and there's no question that money given beyond limits for the purpose, as it was said yesterday by the prosecutors in the Southern District,
go back to that. Go back to what happened in that courtroom and tell us exactly what is your client saying that Trump directed him to do? What specifically?
So let's say what is the government saying that Michael Cohen agreed with and restated under oath is that at the direction and the coordination of the President of the United States, Donald Trump, named candidate, that the donations given to keep quiet 2 women, which Mr. Trump wasn't willing to sign those checks himself, he directed Mr. Cohen to make those hush money payments, is a federal crime. And if Michael Cohen, with the prosecutors in New York agreeing, admitted to that, then certainly Donald Trump is guilty of the same crime.
You know, Lanny, you've been a longtime Clinton advisor and a lawyer for Hillary Clinton and close to Bill and Hillary Clinton. What do you say to those who say that there should be a special counsel investigating the Clintons, the DNC, the dossier, Christopher Steele, and the way this was handled by the Department of Justice and the FBI officials, some of whom have been fired, and certainly showed a distaste for Donald Trump becoming president of the United States?
First of all, you didn't state a single fact involving the Clintons. And although I have a lot of friends at Fox and have been a Fox guest on almost every show on Fox, that kind of rhetoric without facts is unfortunately too common on Fox shows. So state me facts of what Bill or Hillary Clinton actually have done that would suggest anything illegal, suggesting a special counsel.
Well, my question is your reaction to those who have called for that.
There are pure political speculation, rhetoric, but no facts. That's
Have you talked to your
reaction.
client this morning, Mr. Davis?
I have.
Did you want to share anything with us?
Well, he's gone through a lot. His family has suffered. He's in financial distress. We've set up a me site called michaelcohntruth.com.